I want to start this video off by mentioning that I live in Japan and I have visited DisneySea and Tokyo Disney Resort multiple times in my stay here, maybe 2 or 3 times a year. So my intentions for this trip was to almost exclusively visit and ride all of the Fantasy Springs rides during my trip. I did go on other rides, but my overall intention and purpose was to visit for Fantasy Springs and the new rides. So I was able to ride all of the new rides, including Rapunzel's Lantern Festival, Peter Pan's Neverland Adventure, Anna and Elsa's Frozen Journey, and Fairy Tinkerbell's Busy Buggies. I was also able to eat at both of the food options, Arendelle and Snuggly Duckling, in my trip. So this will be a comprehensive overview of my trip, what I did to get on all the rides, and my experience overall with Fantasy Springs. Now, I visited on a Thursday. I used a website called Thrill Data, and there's another website, Q Times, and I used those to plot historical data to understand what day might be best to visit to get the least amount of people while prioritizing the trip. I live in Japan and work in Japan, and something to keep in mind about Japanese culture is that many people take the same days off and the same holidays off. So holidays and specific days and specific weekends are always busy. In America, you might get that around certain holidays or beginning of school season. But in Japan, it's a lot more direct of what times will be busy and what won't. And you can usually rely on historical data for that to be correct in the future. So I visited the Thursday right after school started. Children returned to school. And that first week of September looks like it's always a little bit more dead. The busy season starts right after that. So I wanted to get in then when I could to avoid the busy season of October, November, December. And then you get the next break, January, February. You can visit the websites to see what that looks like. So for my specific trip, I visited on a Thursday. I knew it would be a dead Thursday. I mean, any Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday will be mostly dead unless they're on a specific holiday week. So I visited on a Thursday, and I arrived at the park at 7:30 a.m. I took a direct bus, and I got around the line around 7:30 a.m. So I got in line 7:30, and I was through the gate, scanned my ticket by 8:45 a.m., which was a little later than I would have liked and expected, but I made it in for 8:45 a.m. I had a party of 2 with me. I had my girlfriend, and with 2 people or more, you can link them to the same account or the same group on the app, so multiple tickets can be chosen to do a specific activity. What this allows for is 2 different people or more than 2 people to sign people up for standby, Disney Premier Access, food orders all together at once. So on entry, we knew that she was going to go for standby on Rapunzel's ride, and I was going to go for Disney Premier Access on Frozen's ride. We had opted for Disney Premier Access on Frozen. By using those websites, we saw that it was almost always the most busy out of the Fantasy Springs options. And Rapunzel stays a very low queue up until 2 or 3 p.m. on most days. When we got through the gate, we had secured Rapunzel for 10 a.m., which was great. People from the hotel getting in 15 minutes prior, in this case 45 minutes prior to me, many people were entering. So to get 10 a.m. for Rapunzel was a win. And I checked the app for Disney Premier Access and found that Frozen was sold out. Now, I knew that you could refresh and different time slots will become available. It seems when you use Disney Premier Access, when you click on the time, as long as you pass first through the gate of the app, it will hold that time for you until you check out. I know this because I used my credit card, and I actually had to change credit cards halfway through because it had an old credit card saved from a previous visit. So in the whole time of that, of me changing the credit card, adding a one-time code, it did not expire, and I was able to get the Disney Premier Access for Frozen. So at this point, we had secured what we wanted to. Our original plan was she would do standby for Rapunzel, get the earliest time slot possible, and I would use Disney Premier Access for Frozen and get whatever I could within the itinerary of what she got for standby. At this point, we knew we were secured for a while because you cannot use standby or Disney Premier Access for at least 1 hour or 2 hours. So we did a mobile order for food, and we got the Snuggly Duckling. The next thing you can do once you have secured those three is use your 40th anniversary priority pass, which can be used on a number of normal rides in the park that are not a part of Fantasy Springs. We had previously been on almost every ride, and we weren't in any hurry to get on any rides that day that weren't in Fantasy Springs, so we decided to use it on Aquatopia to get a quick, fun ride in the morning. We got a 9:30 entry on that. So 10 a.m. rolled around, and we were able to get in to the Fantasy Springs area. The queue to get into the area was not my favorite. There were maybe 4 areas where you could scan your QR codes to enter, and it's just very unorganized, no lines, just everyone in a big crowd trying to get to the QR codes. Now, of course, it's fine, it's orderly. I just wish there was specific lines to get in to the QR code scanning. We got in and we went to Rapunzel, and we just went straight on Rapunzel. 10 a.m. We knew the queue would get longer the longer we waited. But the queue was pretty much non-existent. It was a standby pass, but we walked right onto the ride, maybe a 3 to 5 minute wait. The ride itself is very short. I had not looked up any videos of any of the rides. I wanted to go with fresh eyes. I had seen the pictures that everyone had posted, like in Rapunzel, the things that are in that ride, but we were able to walk on pretty much right away. The negative for Rapunzel was that we were placed in the back right corner of the ride. Now, there's a section of the ride where you circle around a scene, but the way that the boat is positioned is that the left side of the boat is what circles the scene. So us being in the back right corner of the boat, we were pretty blinded to the scene. And throughout our day, I'm not sure if this is every day, but throughout our day, many people on every one of these rides were filming and taking photos with their phones, something that I was not accustomed to at Japan theme parks. So between the many phones in the way and us being blinded, being on the wrong side of the boat in the corner, we didn't have the best view and we didn't have the best experience on Rapunzel. So I would like to ride that ride again and hopefully get the left side of the boat. So my recommendation would be, if you can choose, to get the left side of the boat. So once my ride was over, I opened the app and checked standby in it, and it would tell me when my next pass would be available. My next standby chance was available for 11:02 a.m. At this point, I had decided that Disney Premier Access would probably not be needed on another ride, and I wanted to prevent myself from spending too much money if I didn't need to. So I recommend, if possible, when you know that your standby time is coming up, to find a quiet place, a restaurant, a bench, and get into a zone of refreshing to try and hopefully snipe a slot in one of the rides. We had a standby chance for 11:02. I checked at 11:02 and there were no standby passes available, to which I had opened the standby menu, clicked both of our names, gone through, and you can refresh that screen an unlimited amount of times. You have to be very quick though when the ride pops up. So have a mindset of what times you could accept and what rides you want to ride. I refreshed while eating food, and after about 10 minutes, there was a restock of all 3 rides that were available for standby. And I took a 5:25 p.m. entry slot for Tinkerbell. So we had secured 3 of the 4 rides, which was our goal for the day, was to ride on all 4 at least once. I had also gotten my first entry to Big Band Beat for the first time in 5 or 6 years, so that was fun. And at this point, I had free time to spare because our next ride was at 5 p.m. and 3 p.m. for Frozen or Tinkerbell. So we used the priority pass, which had refreshed, to go on 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea a little bit quicker than waiting in the standby. So we didn't have anything too serious that we cared about doing until Big Band Beat at 2 p.m. So from 11 until 2 we were free, which we filled with 20,000 Leagues. So we walked around and we went to the Teddy Roosevelt Lounge, and we did not have a reservation, but you can ask at the door and you can wait anywhere from 5 to 30 minutes and get a seat in there. So once again, checking the app, I saw that my next standby was around 1 p.m. So I went and made note of the time and I had refreshed. At this point, I was able to secure Peter Pan for a 1:40 entry time. Because of the hour window, we knew that we could both go to Big Band Beat, then head over to Fantasy Springs, and we'd be able to still enter for Peter Pan before the 2:40 end time for the entry window. So we had made our way onto our second ride in Fantasy Springs for the day, Peter Pan's Neverland Adventure. We did not have a premium pass or a premier access pass. It was just standby. So we had to wait in the queue for about 30 minutes. But I would say out of all the queues, Peter Pan's was pretty nice and wasn't too bad of a wait. I enjoyed our time in the queue there. I'm not a big fan of the ride vehicle for Peter Pan's Neverland Adventure. It uses similar technology to Soaring and like the Minions ride at USJ. I'm not sure if America has a version of that ride. But the ride vehicle itself has very tall walls on the left and right sides. And I was in the very back. And I'm a tall person. I'm 6'2", and I felt a little bit blinded and claustrophobic by the ride vehicle, but I don't think I missed anything or missed any experiences that you otherwise would have had. I'm just not a fan of that ride vehicle overall. Once finished with Peter Pan, we had more time to spare, and we used this time to, of course, explore Fantasy Springs itself. The design and the theming of the land was really great. I will mention the gift shop that's in Fantasy Springs itself does not seem to have anything exclusive or differentiating that I could find. The main shop at the front of DisneySea had more stuff than I could find across the park, going to multiple different shops. So I would recommend, if possible, just go to the front shop. Of course, you'll probably stop by Fantasy Springs, but don't expect some exclusive items that are only in the shop there. We had not been to the Royal Banquet, the Frozen restaurant, so I had just ordered a coffee there to get a seat, and we were able to kill some time. it was hot outside and the air conditioning and needed a coffee at that point in the day. So it was a good use of the time to spend there while we waited to board Frozen, which was our premiere access. So we headed onto Frozen right at our start time around 3:55, and we were able to skip a majority of the queue. At this point in the day, the queue was 75 minutes, which seems to be one of the longer times that it can be, around the 70 to 90 minute range. It can go up to 120, but on a weekday, I'd expect that. So we were able to skip most of that. We did still see a majority of the queue, but you do go a different direction when you use the Premier Pass. We did miss a bit, but overall, I'm not the biggest Frozen fan, but I still enjoyed the queue, and I did not feel like we missed anything extraordinary. Frozen was definitely the best boat ride I had ever been on. It uses some technology I had not known could exist in a boat ride, so I enjoyed that a lot, and it was a lot of fun. I do recommend that ride maybe as the number one, unless you have specific interest in another IP, Peter Pan or Rapunzel or something like that. And lastly, we headed to Tinkerbell about 1 hour later, an hour and a half later. Tinkerbell is definitely a ride aimed for children, small children, babies, but I enjoyed it a lot, and it had a lot of charm and potentially the most theming across the board. They make you feel like you're very small and in a small world, like Tinkerbell and her mouse Cheese. Very quick ride, just looking at screens and set designs while you go through on a very slow but fun moving cart. At this point, I had been refreshing our standby pass that came up at, I believe, 3 for a long time, maybe throughout the day while walking, anytime we had sat, anytime we went to the washroom, anytime we had taken a break, since we didn't go on many rides or anything. We were mainly just enjoying the park's atmosphere. I was refreshing the page for... I did see many different rides pop up in the standby throughout my refresh. I missed them. They went by very quickly, and there's only one slot, so whoever clicks it first gets it. I saw Peter Pan the most, maybe at least 7 times. I saw Peter Pan throughout my day pop up again in the standby pass while refreshing. I saw Rapunzel 2 or 3 times, and I was unable to get either of those. And I saw Frozen only once, which I was able to secure. So for my second rides, I was lucky by refreshing throughout the day. And on my first standby, I was able to secure Frozen, Anna and Elsa's Frozen Journey, for a second riding at 6:20. And once we were finished that ride, we had our standby available, and I was able to secure the last ride of the day, which was a second ride on Peter Pan's Neverland Adventure at 7:30. I did see Peter Pan many, many times, so if that's the ride you're worried about, as long as you're dedicated to refreshing, you probably should be able to get that. If you're interested in riding Frozen or Rapunzel 2 times without Disney Premier Access, which, to be fair, did sell out early on in the day, I wouldn't count on it. But if you're dedicated to the refreshing and using the app, then I wouldn't count yourself out. I was able to get it. Because my Frozen second riding was at the end of the day, the queue actually was not 75 minutes, it was 15 minutes, and we were able to get on relatively quickly, and we did experience the normal queue, the standby queue, which was a great little treat bonus on top that we could go through both queues. And lastly, we went through and got on to Peter Pan, which was at the very end of the day. We actually watched the nighttime show at the harbor, and then we ran back for our 8:35 last entry. So it was pretty much a walk on for Peter Pan. We maybe waited total 10 minutes. It was very fast. So, what is my opinion of Fantasy Springs? I think all 4 rides are great. I think the land is really great, really well themed, and I think DisneySea did need something new to be brought in, and this was a great overall experience. I think that once the floodgates open and they have less specific queuing of people through this app, I do think some of these rides will be sort of walk-on equivalents to Disneyland, like Pirates or Haunted Mansion, which I think will be great for the park. I think primarily Rapunzel and Tinkerbell will both hold that slot of a quicker ride, maybe 10 to 40-minute wait times, while Frozen and Peter Pan will probably have 30 to 120, more lengthy wait times. Frozen was definitely my favorite ride that we went on that day. I'd like to ride Rapunzel again in the future and not have the blind spot that I had by riding on the right side of the boat. And I had a negative experience around people taking photos and videos while on the rides. I'm not too used to people doing that, especially in Tokyo at Tokyo Disney, but because the rides are new, everyone wants to take photos and videos of themselves on the ride and of the ride itself. Just many times they would block the ride or ruin the experience for me by covering it up or taking me out of the immersion of what's happening in front of me. But to sum up what I did in my experience and how I was able to get through everything, I got there at 7:30 a.m. The park usually lets people in around 8:15 if you're not at a hotel. And I was able to use 2 people to be able to secure 1 standby and 1 premier access. And my recommendation is to get 1 person to do standby on the ride of your choice. My recommendation would still be Rapunzel because it does have a lengthier wait time throughout the day, and I never did see it again on standby. So I would recommend using that one and getting it as early as possible and using Premier Access to get a later time in the day because you'll just walk on to that one much more easily. And the rest of the day would be just making sure you're on top of your standby refreshes, which it'll tell you in the app, and you can just keep a mental note. It's every 2 hours, and you'll be able to just refresh and try to snipe a spot for the remaining 2 rides that you didn't secure in the morning. You are able to go in and out of Fantasy Springs, but you're only able to re-enter through your time slot or by ordering food on the app for Snuggly Duckling or Arendelle. I think that should be an exhaustive overall review of my day at Fantasy Springs, trying to get on all 4 rides. I was able to get on 6, 2 repeats of Frozen and Peter Pan, and it was a successful day. If you had made it this far, thank you for listening, and I hope this was very helpful to those who are more analytical like myself in their approach to going to the theme park and making sure that they get to experience everything they can without spending too much money or extra money on either a hotel or bonus amenities or anything like that. If you have any questions or need further clarification on anything, feel free to leave a comment and I'll do my best to get back to you when I can. Once again, thank you for listening, and I hope this was helpful. Good luck and have a great time at Fantasy Springs.